General Hospital Wednesday, September 3rd recap. Drew's surgery, Willow faints in Chase's arms. General Hospital, GH, recap for Wednesday, September 3rd, reveals that Drew Cameron Matheson, was rushed to surgery after Tracy Quartermain's, Jane Elliott, bloody discovery. Willow Caitlin McMullen, also fainted in Harrison Chase's, Josh Swickard, arms. So let's talk about how it all went down. At Drew's place, the shooter left Drew bleeding on the floor. Kai Taylor, Jens Austin Astrup, came out of the bedroom armed with a bat and urged Trina Robinson, Tabiana Ollie, to stay put, but she followed him to the living room anyway. Trina realized Drew was seriously injured, so she checked and said he still had a pulse. Although Trina wanted to call for help, Kai insisted they couldn't be there and convinced her to leave with him when a car showed up outside. Kai left the door ajar, so it was Tracy who found Drew and tried to stop the bleeding with a blanket. Tracy called 911, so Anna Devane, Finola Hughes, and Dante Falconeri, Dominic Zamprogna, questioned her about what happened. Tracy was there to confront Drew about all the restraining orders drama. There was also confirmation on Scout Quartermain Cosette Abinante being at a camp sleepover, which was a relief. Dante and Anna noticed there was no sign of forced entry in the home, so they speculated that either the door was unlocked or that Drew let his shooter in. Back with Kai and Trina, they had a tense conversation at her apartment. Trina struggled since they just left without helping Drew, but Kai thought bolting was the right call. Kai had a key and could have made up an excuse to explain his own presence, but there was no reason for Trina to be there. In addition to protecting Trina from any criminal charges, Kai came through for her by revealing he'd grabbed the evidence against Portia Robinson, Brooke Kerr. After Trina looked at the file Kai stole, she realized she couldn't even tell Portia and Curtis Ashford, Donnell Turner. They were in the clear since no one could know what they did tonight. At GH, Willow showed up soaking wet after bailing in the middle of her shift and then returning. Elizabeth Baldwin, Rebecca Herbst, questioned Willow and later downplayed Willow's unprofessional actions to Lucas Jones, Van Hansis. Lucas seemed concerned about Liz's head nurse status and what she was willing to let Willow get away with. The paramedics brought Drew in, so Lucas, Elizabeth, and the rest of the medical team began working on him. The bullets hit close to Drew's spine, so things were tricky. Drew needed some transfusions and was ultimately taken to surgery. Chase eventually approached Willow and gave her updates on Drew's shooting, so Willow fainted in his arms. Once Willow regained consciousness, she was eager to learn more about Drew's condition. At the Quartermain mansion, Michael Corinthos, Rory Gibson, came home looking all wet and found Brooklyn Quartermain, Amanda Seton, consoling Wiley Corinthos, Byron Weaver, with hot chocolate after a nightmare. Wiley was upset since Michael hadn't answered his phone, but Michael said he forgot it in the car. Michael gave Wiley plenty of reassurance before speaking with Brooklyn alone. That brought a discussion about Willow going back to Drew and how they had to do whatever it took to keep her away from the kids. At the Five Poppies Resort, Britt Westbourne, Kelly Thiebaud, slipped back in the room where Jocelyn Jacks, Eden McCoy, and Vaughn, Bryce Durfee, were being held. Jocelyn admitted she was a WSB agent along with Vaughn, which Britt found hard to believe. After Britt checked Vaughn's injuries, she said he'd live. Jocelyn pleaded for escape help, but Britt suggested there was only so much she could do and that they'd have to help themselves. However, Britt managed to sneak Jocelyn a pair of manicure scissors, which Vaughn and Jocelyn used to cut themselves free. That led to Jocelyn and Vaughn ambushing the guy who came to check on them later. Pascal, Mark Forget, was suspicious after catching Britt coming out of the hostage room, but she made it seem like she was curious and urged him not to do anything without the boss around. Britt made her way back to her suite, where she struggled to get a call out on the burner phone that Jason Morgan, Steve Burton, gave her. Jason was at the airport when his phone finally rang, so he answered it and had a hard time understanding garbled Britt. Britt insisted Jason had to get back there now, but Pascal caught her mid-phone call and turned menacing. Pascal didn't care what the boss said and insisted that Britt had gone too far. In Jack Brennan's Chris McKenna office, Colette Moreau, Mercedes Lope Renard, complained to Brennan about his agents not checking in and acted like the whole operation was a disaster. Brennan thought it seemed like Colette was eager to see him fail, but She pushed him to brief her and let her go clean this mess up. Once Carly Spencer, Laura Wright, interrupted, she spoke privately to Brennan about her face-off with Drew and reflected on how wrong she was about her former flame. Carly worried maybe she was wrong about Brennan too, and was clearly wrestling with some trust issues. Brennan couldn't promise that he wouldn't hurt Carly, but he did acknowledge how painful the thought of that was and eased her mind. After Brennan was notified about Drew's shooting news, he said it was a good thing Carly had been with him this evening and clearly planned to be her alibi if need be. As for Portia Robinson, Brooke Kerr, she got in bed next to Isaiah Gannon, saw Andy Wilson, before getting called to the hospital. Portia found out about Drew's ordeal and planned to pitch in on his surgery. General Hospital spoilers say this Drew mystery will bring more shockers, so don't miss all the chaos.